rare and balanced view on politics in today's world. Based on facts, born of rationality, common sense, and logic, providing context on today's events. This is American Perspective with Rick Thomas.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to American Perspective. I am your host, who apparently can't push a button on time, Rick. No, actually, it wasn't the matter of the button. The button didn't get pushed on time. It actually did get pushed. It just took a second or two for it to catch up and realize that, oh, yeah, hey, by the way, I've been pushed. We'll go with that. Anyway, no, it's the truth, I'm telling you. And by the way, if Tiger Woods were actually driving this golf cart, I think it might be a little bit more effective than me driving it. Anyway. Yeah. Well, for those of you who have been waiting with bated breath and going, hey, do we have a DHS funding deal? Is the DHS funded? Have we done it? No, not exactly. I'll explain here in just a few minutes. But Trump is coming to the rescue for the TSA. That's all I'm going to say. No, I'm actually going to tell you a little bit more about that, too. Which kind of makes me wonder. I don't know if that's necessarily a constitutional thing or not either. We'll have to explore it when we get there. And there's a story that hasn't even hit the mainstream media or any other media that I'm aware of. This is the first that I've heard of it, but it gives us cause for pause to go, what the hell? Yeah, if we can get to it, or if I can get to it by the end of the night, that will be coming up as well. All right, first things first. Let's go ahead and get that Pledge of Allegiance going. Tonight is Amy. Amy is up for the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you are of mine, please stand. Remove your hat if you're wearing one like me. Place your hand over your heart and follow along with Amy as she recites the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And, of course, I thank you, Amy, for that wonderful rendition of the pledge. If you would like to hear your rendition of the pledge played here on the program, all you need to do is record yourself reciting or performing the pledge in your style. Take that audio file, video file, whatever kind of file, and attach it to an email. Send it off to me. Send it to fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. I have 23 of these. I need 3 more to meet my goal of 26 in 2026. If you would like to help out, record yourself reciting the pledge or performing it and send it off to me. If the file that you generate is too big to email, you can definitely use one of the online free file sharing options like Google Drive, Dropbox, or Box. Generate a link, throw that into the email, and then I'll download it and get it all taken care of and in the rotation. If you use your phone to produce the file, you can use the share option. That's the SHARE option on the phone, and that should allow you to put in the email address fans, FANS, at AmericanPerspective.online. And, yeah, we'll get you into the rotation as quickly as possible. As you can tell, we're back at the top of the order. That's right. Amy is number 1 in terms of the order. She's number 1 on the list. So, yeah, there you go. All right. Let's go ahead and let's talk about tonight's headline sponsor, which is I'm wearing one of their fabulous shirts right now. This one is the Declaration of Independence shirt. But you can check out all of their shirts and styles by heading off to theflagshirt.com. That's theflagshirt.com. Theflagshirt.com. And you can go and check out all of their styles. They're men's, women's, kids, made in the USA, and, of course, the America's 250th anniversary collection. Looks like they've got a polo or two in there now, so you can go and check that out. Take a look at their wonderful shirts. They're fantastic styles. They've got all kinds of, like, America-themed shirts, well, like the Declaration of Independence. I have multiples of the Constitution versions. They're all over the place. And, yeah, you can just go and check them out. Go to theflagshirt.com and check everything out. Right now, they're running a Patriotic Heroes sale. You can get up to 60% off select styles. And, yeah, go and check that out by going to theflagshirt.com. And if you want to, you can head off to flagshirt.americanperspective.online. That's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, where you will be presented with a coupon code. Take that coupon code, copy and paste it into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com, and get yourself $5 off your order. Once again, that's flagshirt.americanperspective.online, where you will be presented with a coupon code. Take that coupon code, copy and paste it into the promo code box at checkout at theflagshirt.com, and you will be able to get $5 off your order. Head on over to theflagshirt.com and get yourself patriotized. All righty. Well, you guys, my Whiskey Warrior P1s, who are incredibly plugged into everything, you guys broke this last night, and I actually found an article that discussed it, because you know the mainstream media is not going to give props to any law enforcement whatsoever, because those folks, they hate law enforcement. But I don't know if anybody else heard this, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about it anyway. There was an ICE agent that apparently rescued a 1-year-old boy who had stopped breathing while waiting in line, the long lines, the long TSA lines, because the Democrats decided to not fund DHS, or which TSA is a part of. But anyway, this ICE agent was apparently there helping the TSA with the lines, and the child apparently suddenly went limp in his father's arms inside the TSA pre-check lane. Now, the boy's arms went lifeless, triggering panic from his father as well as the surrounding passengers. Father started yelling for help, and in the growing commotion, an ICE agent ran to the scene, quickly evaluated the toddler, and immediately began the Heimlich maneuver. Now, for those of you that don't know what the Heimlich maneuver is, it's usually used and utilized to clear an obstruction that you cannot clear with your finger or other such object from a child or even an adult's throat. So if anybody who's done any kind of CPR classes, you know that you start off by taking the person or the victim, if they are no longer breathing, you start by, well, at least this might be old news, but generally you start by slapping them on the back to get them to hopefully dislodge whatever object is in their airway. And if that doesn't work, then you utilize the air that is trapped within their lungs as you pull, you squeeze essentially their stomach or their diaphragm, and you push up at the same time. I'm not going to describe exactly how to do it. Go to a CPR class and learn. But anyway, you dislodge it by essentially using whatever air is already stuck in their lungs to push it out. And apparently that is what this ICE agent did. It only took a few seconds, and the ICE agent dislodged whatever was there, and the boy started breathing again. Paramedics examined him on the spot and then cleared him to continue to fly. The DHS made a statement. The statement read, "This heroic officer immediately sprang into action, rushing toward the cries, taking the child, performing the Heimlich maneuver that restored the infant's breathing after nearly 2 minutes. This officer's extraordinary bravery embodies the selfless service of DHS law enforcement." Now, for those of you who are not necessarily watching and keeping score, this is the second time in recent weeks where an ICE agent has saved a child. The last time prior to this, on February 20th, there were some off-duty agents in Massachusetts who pulled a 4-year-old boy from a hotel swimming pool after he had fallen in and nearly drowned. The agents, who were eating nearby, performed CPR until the paramedics had arrived. The ICE said of the Massachusetts rescue, "If our agents had not been there and stepped up, this would have been a tragic outcome. Our agents are truly the best of the best. Every single day they put their lives on the line to save American lives." Yeah. Well, keep in mind, folks, these are the same individuals that the leftist lunatic Democrats claim are Nazis, claim they are racist, they are untrained, they are, essentially thugs that walk around and throw their weight around and all this other stuff. But no, they don't serve a purpose. Let's get rid of ICE completely. Yeah, they don't serve a purpose at all. I can tell you there's at least 2 young children's lives who would not be here today if it had not been for those ICE agents. Well, the leftists, they can't even apparently can't even catch a break at all. These leftist lunatics, they're just out for blood. Well, what's really interesting, though, is that even though the Democrats are talking about these ICE agents as though, oh, no, they don't need to be there. They don't need to be there. Yeah, they don't need to be at the airports or whatever. I mean, we talked about it the other night. They were handing out water to people who were standing in lines outside the building, outside in the heat, in Houston and other places. They were handing out water to people. Oh, yes, that's just an absolute horrible thing. Those Nazis, they don't give a crap about people, right? Well, apparently, a Brooklyn man was talking about, hey, the ICE agents and how the ICE agents, they don't look very different than other Border Patrol and things of that nature that are in the area when he's traveling. When he's traveling overseas. Let's go ahead and take a listen to his rendition of what's happening at the airport.
Now I gotta be here for 3 hours and twiddle my thumbs. I was like, this is great. And now all of a sudden I started seeing the ICE agents walk, and I was like, they look like they're here to help if God forbid something happens. I mean, the last I knew, people were scared to go to airports years ago. The more safety and security, the better. That's just the way that's just the way I feel. But I don't really care who was there to help. As long as everything goes smooth in the airport and everyone gets on their planes, like, God bless. I mean, it is common sense. That's all I really was concerned about was everybody's safety. I mean, from what I know, every time I go into an airport internationally, I see customs agents, border patrol. They're at airports. So I wasn't too sure what the fuss was. Only crazy? I don't know. Last time I went on vacation was probably 6 months ago. So this was well deserved. And I'm glad it went smooth. That's all I cared about. Because that's the thing, right? It's like, oh, all the anxiety leading up to going to the airport. It was like, I haven't traveled in so long, blah, blah. I don't want to deal with a headache. It almost makes you not want to travel. Then you get there and everything's smooth. Easy peasy.
So there you get there. You get there and everything's smooth, easy peasy. Yeah. I love the Brooklyn accent, man. That's a guy for sure from New York, Queens, whatever. Anyway. Oh, hold on. Okay.
All right,
so anyway, yeah, easy peasy, lemon squeezy, whatever. All right. Well, one of the things that would be nice is if the Senate and the Senate Democrats would just get out of the way and fund DHS. They did that last night. Very late last night. But here's the deal. And this is what I've been telling you all this time. People seem to forget the old schoolhouse rock about how this works. Now we're going to start seeing the ping pong, fellas and ladies. We're seeing the ping pong. So the Senate went ahead and passed funding for most of DHS, and now it goes to the House because the original bill that came from the House to fund DHS that the Senate was considering, well, it got changed. And for those of you that don't recall Schoolhouse Rock, this is how it works. You have two halves of Congress. You have what is known as the upper house, or the House, and also known as the lower chamber. And then you have the upper chamber, which is the Senate. And both of those comprise the entirety of Congress. When a bill is created, and by the way, the House of Representatives is the one that starts the funding bills. When the bills are created by one of the two chambers, the bill then gets sent to the other chamber where it is debated and discussed. Amendments are made if necessary, changes are done or whatever. And then once it passes the second chamber, if there are any changes that are made, it gets sent back to the originating chamber. In this case, it's the House. And it goes back for additional debate, changes, or agreements. Now, usually, say, for an example, the House creates a bill. They pass it. They send it off to the Senate. The Senate makes changes. They send it back to the House. The House can then make the choice of, okay, we either accept the changes as they are, or we make further changes to those changes. Anytime a change is made, it has to get re-evaluated by the other house and voted on. Well, this one, the Republicans of the House of Representatives created this funding bill for DHS, sent it off to the Senate. The Senate has been debating it for, 40 some odd days, and has now come up, we're going to make some changes, and we're going to send it back to the House of Representatives. Well, here's the problem. John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, He told reporters that this new legislation has literally zero reforms on immigration enforcement policy. If you recall correctly, that's what the Democrats were attempting to who have attempted to essentially change immigration enforcement policy, make things like, oh, you have to have a written warrant, rather than the administrative warrants that are created by the immigrations judges. They needed actual federal court judges and warrants and all this other stuff. There's a whole bunch of different things that they wanted. And anyway, John Thune says, we've been trying for weeks to fund the whole thing, meaning funding all of DHS, including ICE. And he goes, and I mean, in the end, this is what they were willing to agree with. But again, it's different that it has zero reforms in it. I mean, they got zero reforms on DHS, which they could have had if they'd been willing to work with us a little bit on that. Well, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, said that the deal itself could have been reached weeks ago and vowed that his party would continue to fight to ensure the immigration enforcement operations does not get more funding without serious reform. So the partial shutdown, just to kind of catch everybody else up, the partial shutdown left about 50,000 TSA agents working without pay, forced hundreds of officers to quit the agency, according to DHS. The department said on March 25th that more than 3,120 TSA officers had been calling out sick as they were unable to afford gas and pay rent, and leading to continued long lines across the country, I should say. Now, this package, whatever it was that they did, they basically did it under the cover of darkness late last night. Well, since it is different than the one that the House Republicans sent over to the Senate in the first place, now it has to go back to the House of Representatives, as I just explained. And, well, the House Republicans are not happy about this. House Minority Whip Tom Emmer revealed that Speaker Johnson is deeply unhappy with the measure and slammed Democrats for attempting to weaken border security. And, well, yeah, let's just say, actually, let's hear it in their own words. Where it comes from. Now, I think this is Whip Emmer.
Well, actually, I'll start out with our speaker is very unhappy. I'm not happy. Our whole leadership group, what the Senate did was, frankly, not right. We are going to make sure that border is funded. This is about making sure that President Trump's number one promise was that the border was going to be secure. He's accomplished with Republican leadership incredible things with the southern border. It has never been as tight as it is right now. But we are not going to allow these radical, anarchist, Marxist, socialist Democrats to literally stop or create an open border situation again, like we experienced under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. And we're going to make sure that we continue to deport criminal, illegal aliens. This is what Americans want.
But if there is a no vote in the House today, does that mean that the Senate has to come back to do it all over again?
The House will have a solution. That's as much as I can tell you. There'll be more on that very shortly. I think the leadership team with the Speaker has been working through this. Again, they did this at 3 in the morning, Stuart. Yep. Instead of doing it in the light of day when all of America can watch what's going on, they did this procedural move early in the morning. By the way, it sets dangerous precedents going forward. If you could take appropriations bills and start to take out pieces that you don't like, this will never end. So we're working through it in the House. We will have a solution, and the Speaker will announce it, hopefully within the next hour or so.
Okay. Well, that's kind of interesting. So, yeah, that's kind of interesting. They're not happy, and they're working through it. Now, keep in mind that Senate funding bill initially failed to deliver key Democratic concessions like the judicial warrants preventing ICE agents from covering their faces. However, it denied any funding for ICE and CBP, and that's what they're talking about in terms of the Border Patrol being basically defunded. So, yeah. Schumer, of course, says, this is exactly what we wanted. This is exactly what we asked for, and I'm very proud of my caucus. My caucus held the line. By the way, John Thune was seen leaving D.C. with his private escort for recess on this. Well, Speaker Johnson, like you just heard, is not happy about the situation. And, well, yeah, let's just see what Speaker Johnson sounds like when he's really pissed off. Let's take a listen.
This has to stop. The Republicans are not going to be a party to this. They have taken hostage the funding processes of government so that they can impose their radical agenda on the American people, and we can't have any part of it. This gambit that was done last night is a joke. I'm quite convinced that it can't be that every Senate Republican read the language of this bill, and I'm going to just read you one excerpt of it because it's pretty alarming, and it says everything that you need to know in Section 4. This is on page 2 of the bill. This is an actual copy of the bill. That excerpt. It says, quote, "The contents printed under the headings of this bill, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement and Border Security Operations, under the heading of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol and Protection, shall have no force or effect for purposes of this act, and amounts specified in the final bill under the subheading Border Security Operations and under the heading U.S. Customs and Border Protection and under the headings of U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement in the Department of Homeland Security shall be zero." We're not doing that. And it is unconscionable to me that the Democrats would force some sort of negotiation at 3 o'clock in the morning and try to hoist this upon the American people and then get on their jets and go home for their holiday and pretend and think that we're going to go along with that.
So, this is funding problems, funding issues. By the way, the Senate is not expected to return until after Easter, April 13th. Yeah. Now keep in mind, ICE and Customs and Border Protection, okay? They have some limited amount of funding because of the One Big Beautiful Bill. But that doesn't mean that they're going to be consistently or being able to, consistently operate under that funding. Now, this is an appropriations bill. So there's a lot of rules that come along with these appropriations bills. And the DS, they will probably have a possibility of putting forth a continuing resolution. Now, I'm just going to point this out, folks. I can't quite figure this out, but why these people are doing this. But apparently you can continue to fund government through continuing resolutions for as long as you want. I mean, that's just it. They, now continuing resolutions generally are essentially, they're kind of like, hey, everything stays the same. All the funding stays the same. We just expand our budget another 2 months, 60 days. And that's how this works. Now, we've been running on continuing resolutions for quite some time now. We haven't actually had like actual budget appropriations bills for quite some time. Anyway, well, here is Mike Johnson a little bit further. He is talking to, let's see, who is this? Scott Jennings, I believe. And, well, let's just take a listen and hear what he has to say about what they're planning on doing with this Senate bill. Take a listen.
We are going to pass, hopefully by tonight or at the latest by tomorrow morning, as soon as procedurally we can get this done. We're going to pass a clean, continuing resolution that will get us to mid-May, about 8 weeks or so. And that will allow all of those who sacrificially serve our country to keep the nation safe get their paychecks. Scott, TSA agents have not been paid for half of this fiscal year already. They've gone without regular paychecks. It's 42 days. They've been working without pay. This is the second longest shutdown in U.S. history, and everybody listening to the sounds of our voices needs to ask themselves, why? Why would Democrats do this? It is very simple. What they want to do is defund the two agencies of the federal government that keep the borders closed and secure and who go out and enforce immigration law. They don't want criminal illegal aliens who got into this country under Joe Biden deported from the country. And you see the terrible effects that has happened from this. In the last few days, we've had innocent Americans murdered by criminal illegal aliens who are released onto the streets by Democrats in sanctuary city, blue cities, and over that wide open border under Biden. We can't allow for this. The most basic function of government is protecting its citizens, and Democrats don't want to do that.
Mr. Speaker, as a procedural matter, are you bound to have to vote on what the Senate did overnight, or can you just throw that in the garbage and go straight to your 60-day clean CR plan?
Yeah, we're rejecting it. It goes straight to the shredder where it belongs, and we're going to send instead a continuing resolution that just goes for that number of weeks, 8 weeks. Now, we can continue negotiations with Democrats if they want to be in good faith, which they're not, over that period of time. But right now, and in that interim period, you've got to make sure that people are paid. Now, look, I want to hasten to say, so grateful to President Trump. I've talked to him twice already this morning. He signed an executive order to get all those TSA agents in the airports paid right now. I mean, that's happening right now. The Office of Management and Budget is processing paychecks right now. He has heroically stood forward and shown leadership, as always.
Okay, so I had to stop because we'll get to the executive order here in a little bit. But as you can tell, I mean, Speaker Johnson's not happy about this situation, and he's basically like, hey, I'm throwing away the Senate bill. It's done. And the Senate has left town for a 2-week recess. So at least for the next 2 weeks, DHS is not going to get anything in terms of this. Yes, Democrats have caused this mess. And now we're back to square one. So, yeah. Well, all I got to say is this. This is just ridiculous, first of all. Second of all, I can't even imagine why anybody would consider this whole situation necessarily, regardless of whether it's a Democrat or Republican side, why they would consider these things wins. These are not wins. These are ridiculousness. This is ridiculousness about this. Well, they introduced, obviously, the continuing resolution, which is a 60-day bill, and sent that back to the House, to the Senate. And so this 60-day continuing resolution would fully fund DHS, including ICE and Border Patrol, including other and include other conservative priorities like voter ID provisions. Now, keep in mind, folks, this is going to go back and forth. I'm just going to tell you. See, this is part of the problem. This is why when you have these kinds of situations where both sides are not funding anything, this is going to cause a ping pong, I'm telling you, Because if the House Republicans put in things like voter ID provisions and things of that nature into this continuing resolution, well, what you're going to end up finding out is that the Senate Democrats are not going to vote for that, and they're going to strip that out, and it's just basically going back and forth, back and forth. Yeah. So, anyway. Now, I haven't heard whether or not they've actually gotten the CR written, whether or not they've procedurally put it on the floor, procedurally have been able to get it passed. But yeah, there you go. Now, as you heard Mike Johnson say, Trump has signed an executive order to pay the TSA agents. Now, keep in mind, this doesn't pay any of the rest of the DHS, but it certainly takes care of the TSA, which is the direct effect that the American people are feeling here. So, yeah. So Donald Trump proposed and signed today a executive order that basically says, I hereby direct the Secretary of Homeland Security, in coordination with the Director of the Office of Management and Budget, to use funds that have a reasonable and logical nexus to TSA operations to provide TSA employees with compensation and benefits that would have accrued to them if not for the Democrat-led DHS shutdown. Here's the thing, folks. There is nothing in the Constitution that talks about executive orders. There is nothing in the Constitution that says that the president necessarily has the powers to spend money in a different location than where it was allocated. And notice what I said there. To spend money in a different location than where it was allocated. You recall I talked about this on the program not that long ago, where Thomas Jefferson was the first one to quote unquote use his executive office to be able to pause money. And that was the first time in our history that the president had basically said, hey, I am not going to spend money on what Congress has actually provisioned for. Now, the problem with this, of course, is that actually Thomas Jefferson didn't not pay. He just basically held off the payment. It was for new Navy ships. And it was right at the cusp of when new technology and new ships were going to be presented and built. And so he basically said, why would I buy the older version of those ships when I can buy the newer version of the ships when they come out? And so he withheld that money. Now, he eventually paid for the ships, which is what the law essentially stated. So technically, Thomas Jefferson did not go against the Congress when it came from that. But here's the problem. He didn't actually stop the payment. He didn't divert the funds. He just basically said, no, I'm not going to pay for it right now, but I will pay for it in the future. And as those of us who have kind of watched the inner workings of the government, you cannot just take money from one bill and put it into funding of another. For an example, you cannot take money. So let's say, here as an example, let's say there is a surplus of money from the military and national defense spending. You cannot take that money and divert it to, say, support farming, a farming bill. You can't do that. That is considered to be illegal. You can't just shift that money around willy-nilly. So the question that I'm going to have here is if this, and notice how the EO was written, if this is discovered to be an illegal misappropriation of funds, whether or not this is going to get challenged in court. Because as I just read the EO to you, it said use funds that have a reasonable and logical nexus to TSA operations. So essentially what he's doing here, so that you understand, is he's taking money that has already been given to the TSA and is shifting it from the operational budget into the payroll budget. Now that may be allowed. I'm going to assume it's legal at this point. But yeah, this is kind of an interesting conundrum of an area of a place to get this taken care of. Anyway, all right. Let me go ahead and talk to you about my favorite coffee, or my favorite scenario here has to deal with coffee. And this is the wonderful coffee, the elixir that I drink. I drink coffee in the morning. I love waking up to it. I have a big 16-ounce mug that I fill with the coffee, and that gets my day started. And if you still haven't tried 1775 coffee, now is your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped. There's only 1,000 units available. That's a small number of units. In each unit, you're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus with no crash. All of these are single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus, you're also getting the gold spoon clip, because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. You'll also be receiving a frother that is strong enough to stir up not only your coffee, but your mother-in-law's opinions. It's not really too hard for that. And you'll be receiving a black 1775 tumbler. It's $170 worth of coffee and gear, yours for just $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 coffee blow up on a Rumble and wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler alert, it is. Go to the numbers, 1775, the word coffee, all together, all one word. 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO, and grab your starter kit before they are gone. That's 1775coffee.com/studio, and grab your starter kit today. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit. And by the way, when you do that, according to G, maybe that'll help Congress deal, because you'll be helping to withhold 1775 coffee from Congress itself. So maybe that'll get them to actually stop being so stupid and deal. Go to 1775coffee.com/studio, STUDIO, to get that $170 worth of coffee and gear for just $99. All right. Remember, I gotta. Anyway. Okay, what was I talking about? Oh, yes. All right. So you remember I talked about New Jersey, the governor, Mickey Sherrill, signing that anti-ICE law. Well, there's a New Jersey lawmaker who apparently, her name is Assemblywoman Dawn Fantasia. And, well, she has a pretty good conversation, because you've got to understand, again, with all of these people, okay, with all of these sanctuary cities and all of these people who want to sit here and talk about how the state can override the federal government, well, she's got something to tell you with regards to that. Go ahead and take a listen here.
We can set policy for New Jersey. We cannot control the federal government. We can control our state agencies. We can control our local law enforcement. Yet, here we are. This bill sweeps in federal law enforcement and pretends we can regulate how they do their jobs, what they wear, how they operate, and how they carry out federal law. We do not have that authority.
That's right. They don't. See, there's this wonderful little clause in the federal government, or, well, within the Constitution, which, I mean, the Constitution is the federal government. So there's a law within the Constitution that basically says that if you have a state law that conflicts with a federal law, the federal law takes precedence. You know what that's called? It's called the Supremacy Clause, meaning that federal law trumps, tongue-in-cheek, trumps state law. That's right. Federal law can overrule state law. Now, obviously, keep in mind, a lot of this is going to have to deal with or be presented by, because, again, you can have a law created, just like you can have, a court case, and the courts could say, hey, they create an opinion, and the opinion says that somebody was wronged or whatever. Well, there's this thing known as enforcement, and it's difficult to enforce a law like this, as we've seen in L.A. Like the L.A. sheriff said, you're sitting here telling me that I'm going to have to go and, arrest or stop a federal agency from wearing masks? Yeah, good luck with me trying to enforce that. You're pitting two armed agencies against each other. That's not going to go very well. That's essentially what this... It's essentially what's going on here. So, yeah. So a lot of these laws that they're dealing with where, the federal government can't wear masks, or, the federal government can't use non-lethal things like tear gas or rubber bullets or any of that for crowd control on federal property. Yeah. But even though that federal property exists within, the state of Oregon, for an example. Yeah, none of that matters. None of that matters at all. And even the courts have been, some of these judges who have actually been intelligent, especially at the appeals level, have been like, are you people nuts? You can't do this. And they've overturned them. All right. Let's get to the story. Biggest news story that absolutely zero, as far as I know, zero have been talking about. Folks, everybody's been watching what's been happening in the Middle East, and everybody's been watching what's been happening in Eastern Europe. And if you recall, there was a decisive strike by Ukraine on some fuel depots and things like that in Russia. that was hotly talked about here, but I don't know. I think it was like 6-8 months ago, something like that. And a lot of people have been talking about drones being used along the southern border and all of these things that have been going on. Well, there's one thing that apparently nobody knew about. There's this place in Barksdale, Louisiana. I don't know if anybody knows about this place, Barksdale, Louisiana. It's the headquarters for our B-52 nuclear bomber fleet. Oh, wait, catch that. B-52 nuclear bomber fleet. Now, this place, okay, is and supposed to never, ever be offline. Apparently, it was attacked by drones. So it's been reported that swarms of unidentified drones repeatedly loitered over Barksdale Base between March 9th and March 15th, drawing zero publicly known effective response from both the military or the Department of Homeland Security. Now, for those of you that don't know, Barksdale is the headquarters for the Air Force's Global Strike Command, which is responsible for the nation's nuclear, intercontinental ballistic missiles, and strategic bomb forces, including the B-2, B-1, and the B-52. The base is home of the 2nd Bomb Wing B-52s and is the central hub of communications and logistics support for coordinating and directing those forces. By the way, George Bush sheltered there during 9/11. Now, according to the reports, there was an attack of drone swarms, and the attack was enough that it disrupted B-52H aircraft launches in support of the Operation Epic Fury. Now, this is the first time that a U.S. air base was temporarily put out of operation in wartime, something that hasn't happened even in World War II. Now, according to the report, because these swarms attacked and interfered with the aircraft's ability to take off and land safely, each wave forced the Air Force to halt operations and send its personnel into shelters. Now, the only other significant air base for the B-52s is in Minot, or Minot, however it's pronounced, Air Force Base in North Dakota. Both of these bases are supporting Epic Fury. Now, the aircraft themselves can either fly to the UK and then on to Iran, or, as they did during the period when the UK blocked them, fly directly from Barksdale to Iran, which is a very long mission requiring 8 in-air refuelings. Now, these drone waves apparently lasted around 4 hours each day, an extraordinarily long loiter time for a drone. Okay. Not Minot, what? Anyway. Sorry, I think it was pronounced, it may be pronounced Minot, North Dakota. Anyway, that's what I'm being told by one of my Whiskey Warrior P1s, and I trust them. Anyway, so it's not known whether the drones themselves were fixed wing or quadcopter types, or even how they were powered, because of the fact that not a single one was taken down There was no crashes. There was nothing. Not a single one was actually taken down or anything else. The drone waves consisted of 12 to 15 drones per wave, and they flew with their lights on, essentially intentionally making them visible. So, yeah. Now, reportedly, the airbase does have some electronic countermeasures designed to disable GPS and the data links between the drones and their remote operators. However, those countermeasures appear to have failed to work. The drones themselves may have been autonomous, semi-autonomous, or operated in ways suggesting that the drones were equipped with multiple sensors that directed the behavior of each drone over the base and in response to attempts at jamming. These are not your standard drones, apparently. They are large. They were sophisticated. They had longer loiter times and presumably have sensors and the ability to carry possibly significant weapons. These aren't anything like the normal drones that you see in Ukraine, and those have devastating damage capability. These potentially have far more capabilities. So we were not able to capture any of them nor trace where they actually came from. So we have no idea. We have no information on this whatsoever. However, we do know that they have potentially an extraordinary range and could resist all kinds of broad spectrum jamming, feature non-commercial signal characteristics. There is a possibility, however, that these may have come from China, because it is assumed that China at this point is the best equipped to produce this type of drone. So, yeah. And this is something that nobody has even talked about. Not a single person. Not a single person. So we're kind of questioning and trying to figure out, how is this even possible? So, I don't know. That's some kind of scary stuff, man. There's a type of drone out there that can stop flight operations. Keep in mind, too, reportedly the airbase did not have anything other than the electronic countermeasures, like as in they don't have any jets that can shoot down drones or any of that kind at the location. So, scary stuff. All right, folks, that is it for me for this evening. Do me a favor, if you haven't already, head on over to rumble.com, get yourself an account. It is free. And once you are signed up and signed in, make sure that you search up the American Perspective channel and hit that green follow button to get notified every time that I go live. Also, too, don't forget, if you haven't done so already, give me a thumbs up, thumbs down, or in the case of 3 Chevy, a thumb sideways across all of my platforms, whether it's X, Facebook, YouTube, or, of course, the aforementioned Rumble. We will see you tomorrow night, 1 hour later than normal, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, right here on American Perspective. Have a great rest of your evening, and good night.